think about, honestly, my kids wanted to play college lacrosse, and a lot of the other kids that I know. So I know that the process can be kind of daunting. There's a lot of questions. People don't know what to expect. They don't know how to approach it, how to find the right school, the right fit for them and their needs. So I talked to Don Marzano over the summer about doing this. He thought it would be a great idea, so I figured it was worth giving it a shot. I had no clue who was going to show up, so glad to see you. So what we're going to do is I've got a bunch of questions that I've laid out ahead of time, just stuff that I thought of. I'm going to ask the panel of coaches all these questions. When we're finished, then we can open it up to the floor. And if you guys have questions, I'll run around with the microphone in case we can't hear you up here, and make sure your questions get answered. So please don't be shy. Let's make this kind of conversational, and let's try to learn some things. So I'm gonna let the coaches introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about their program and school. So I guess who's going to go first? Coach B.
I'm Jennifer Fuller. I am the women's coach at Muskingum University. For those who don't know, Muskingum is located in New Concord, Ohio. It's about an hour east of Columbus. I've been there for 2 years now. We're currently in our third year with the program, and we're looking to continue to build there.
Yeah, I'm Nick Gallagher. I'm the head men's lacrosse coach at Muskingum. I'm in my fourth year, started the program, and we're in our third year of varsity. Echo everything that Coach B said.
I'm Don Marzano. I'm the head coach at Capital University. I got hired on middle of August. Prior to that, I started Wilmington College's program, not too far away from here. I'm also assistant coach of the Ohio Machine, and then this is our women's coach at Capital as well.
I'm Stacey Wood. I am the women's coach at Capital University in Columbus. This is our fourth varsity year. So, that's Cap.
All right. Can you hear everybody okay?
Yeah.
We're good? Okay. All right. Well, college coaches, thank you very much for making the trip over here. We really appreciate it. So let's jump into these questions. Again, if you have something to comment or whatever, feel free to jump in. So when I thought about doing this, I was really thinking about kind of getting information from the coach's perspective. So if you don't mind, tell us how things look from your perspective. You know, how much time do you spend recruiting? What areas do you recruit in? How do you find the athletes? Who's worth looking at? That kind of thing.
So as far as how much time you spend recruiting, in Division III athletics, there's, recruiting never really stops for us, to be honest with you. We're recruiting right now. But he's got to go to a different place in Michigan. This weekend, I'll actually be at a box tournament. So every weekend, there's always an opportunity for us. And with our rules, we basically recruit all the time, whether it's at an event, we're calling you guys, we're sending out emails, we're looking at highlight film, or even just YouTube highlights and everything. We're always looking, for good quality athletes. Is kind of where I see ourselves, and what we spend a lot of our time is. I would say we're about 90% of our time to be recruiting. And when you don't see us on the field, you can guarantee we are watching it or hounding coaches to get your contact info, or reaching out to your coaches to see what your grades are, or who you are, and who's the next best kid in your program. So all the time.
That's the most simple answer ever.
Yeah.
That one's easy. I mean, that's literally all we were doing. I mean, on our way down, Coach B and I drove down together. She was banging out the text on the phone. We're always looking to find the next kid for our program who we think is going to put us in a successful situation. And like Coach Marzano said, it eats up time, plenty of time. I mean, 90% of my job is hunting down 16, 17, 18-year-old kids. But we're looking for the right kids, and I think that's part of the vetting process for us. We're not these big places like Ohio State. We're a small school, especially for us. We're kind of a small school off the beaten path. So what we really have to do is we really don't just go on what I see a player do. I'm really going to work on talking to their club coach, talking to their high school coach, trying to speak to somebody else in their life. Obviously parents are big, but we want to make sure that we thoroughly, I don't want to say vet, but that's kind of what we're trying to do, is make sure that when we bring in a young man into our program, that we're bringing in somebody who could be super successful for 4 years and what we call being a good muskie. So,
Coach B, what do you got?
I mean, these two pretty much cover that. Most of the time is spent recruiting, whether it's going to big tournaments. I mean, even local tournaments. I was actually at Centerville yesterday. You know, just trying to track down coaches and your contact information. So most of our time is spent, whether it's, you know, on a field or at a tournament. We're also, you know, selling or sending out emails, mailing. So I would say most of our time is spent recruiting.
Coach Wood, you got anything?
I'm gonna echo all three.
All right.
You want us to go to the area?
So yeah, so where do you recruit? We'll start with Coach Wood.
I think it's kind of shifted as my program has gotten a little bit more competitive and established. But year one, I mean, I was looking for bodies. If you could, you know, cross again, I wanted you on my team. And now I think that as we're in our fourth year and I have 4 full classes of lacrosse girls that I recruited, now I can be a little bit more selective. So when I go to the big tournaments, women's game, we have the IWLCA, and they sponsor giant tournaments where it's all ages, and we can focus on the type of player that we want. Geography, I normally just focus on Ohio. I have really good luck with Ohio. People know about Columbus and Capital, and I'm getting out of state. I have a Maryland kid on my roster, a Virginia kid, looking to tap into Buffalo. But other than that, Columbus is a hotbed, and it's growing, especially in girls lacrosse, the talent, state championships, playoffs. I mean, Columbus is kind of, I would say, for women, high school. It's what I want to recruit about.
Yeah, I think that when I see like rosters, first thing I look at is kind of like pipelines. You know, if I have a kid from an Olentangy school, I'm definitely going to talk to him. There's one thing about, I call my freshman rookies. You know, our rookies know those kids in the grade under them. They're going to be truthful. Like, you guys know each other, and you guys will probably be able to tell me the next kid, you know, if you get a spring rookie in the program, you'll be like, who's the next kid in line? And you kind of want to develop it, you know, in my opinion, a little bit on pipelines and what areas you do. But, you know, I'm a Columbus, Ohio product. I went to Hilliard Davidson. He's a Dublin guy, too. So we've seen it kind of grow since, like, when we were in high school, there was probably, like, 45 teams, maybe, in the boys' game. And now there's 120. Like, Spring Road and team, you guys are extremely successful as of late, especially. So, like, for us to see it grow, it's kind of cool that we can recruit all these areas. When we were getting recruited, there wasn't a Capital or Muskingum or Wilmington. There was none of that. So for me and him, it's really cool to see that in different areas. My big thing is, you know, we'll do our homework. We will basically, I will make sure that, you know, we had a Lacrosse Ohio website, and all the rosters are listed. I will go through that thing, and I will get a read or a scout or a recommendation on literally every single kid. So as far as areas, yeah, we do, you know, 85% of my program is from Ohio. So we do focus about 85% of my recruiting on Ohio. We also are fortunate enough to have a couple upstate New York kids, a Maryland kid, and you know, we got kids coming in from Florida and a few other places as well. So I try to stick in those areas. So once you make a relationship with a school or an area, then it's a little easier to get another player from that same area.
yeah, and I'll echo what Coach Marzano said. You know, he and I were coming up about the same time, and I think we're both pretty fortunate to go to the places where we went to play in college. But at that time, there wasn't a ton of lacrosse in the state. I mean, there was, you know, you had your teams in Columbus, you had your handful of teams down here. You're talking about places like Moeller that, you know, won state championships in the early 90s and stuff. And you know, you're talking about places up in Cleveland, St. Ignatius, and some of those other schools that, you know, were really had a foothold in. You know, my cousin went to Tecumseh High School, so he played for the Dayton Club. He just graduated 2 years ago from Otterbein. That opportunity wasn't there when I went to school. And it's not, I don't think for us in the OAC right now, as we're continuing to build kind of our league, our idea of our league around the nation, you know, we're not looking to bring in kids who aren't going to work hard. You know, I think the great MO that Ohio's had and always has is that kids come in and they're hard workers. You know, I played at Ohio Wesleyan with a number of kids from all over the place, but you know, our top guys were always from Ohio. So that's, you know, for me, when I do any of my recruiting, and again, we're a little bit in a different situation than these guys. You know, they're in a super urban place. We're in a little more of a rural area. So we're kind of looking at kids from, you know, the Canton area, Cleveland, Columbus. We try to get some Pittsburgh, some West Virginia. You know, right now I got a kid from Virginia. We've had kids from New York. We had a kid from Boro, Alaska, who's one of our goalies. You know, it's, for us right now, it's not just about, you know, like I said earlier, it's not just about finding kids, it's about finding the right kids that we think we can be successful with. And I'll go anywhere to do that. The majority of our roster also from Ohio, which I love. But I think, again, as we try to expand,
Is what age do you start looking at kids? How early is too early?
well,
Are they in 2 summers or 3 summers, or when do you start looking?
you know, for us, I'm going to start IDing kids, in which for me that just means when I go to a tournament. Last year I was starting to ID 2018. So I'll get an idea of your son, what hand he is, how I think he is, and I'll grade him on 3 things. If he's hustling, if I think he's got the skill, and if I think he's athletic enough. And I rate every guy on those 3 things coming into their junior year. So that's when we start IDing kids. I'm not at a place in my program, I don't have 40 assistants, right? So we're gonna really focus once we hit the summer and once we get into the fall, we're gonna really start focusing on those kids who are seniors now. So I'm really working hard on my 2017s. Once I hit about January, February, I'll start reaching out a little bit to those juniors. You know, like I said, there's some other places that, you know, it's different strokes for different folks. You know, places like Ohio Wesleyan, like Denison, you know, the NCACs that have been around for a while, those guys are much further ahead in the process than we are, and they're known. So they're going to get kids who are interested in them a lot earlier, number 1, but number 2, they can spend that time because they have the ability and some of the resources to put themselves in a position where they can kind of work with those kids a little bit longer. You know, personally for me, I think the early recruiting thing, I think it's really tough. I think right now the landscape of lacrosse is a little bit shaky because you know, you're talking about kids who are 2020s, you know, freshmen who are committing to Division I schools. You know, I know Coach Marzano and I, we've talked about this a couple times, but I wasn't ready as a 13, 14-year-old kid to say, hey, that's where I want to be. But I also think it's good and bad. We have so many, you know, opportunities for young men to get out and play and young women to get out and play that, you know, they want to be recruited, and that's a good thing, especially coming from a place like the Midwest where it's been, I would say it's been under-recruited, and now it's almost over-recruited because we have so many teams. Does that kind of give you an idea there?
Yeah, and so that, I've got a secondary follow-up.
Fire.
You probably don't want a letter from me, but at some point you're gonna get letters from players. What makes those letters stand out that makes you want to say, I want to go watch this kid, I want to see this kid play, he's got some interest, and I've done some homework, and I want to go see what he's all about?
Well, I think, you know, for me personally, I try to get out to as many high school games as I can. I was down here, I don't know, I came down to the tournament game right down the street there, and I had already ID'd a couple guys that I had seen through some stuff. So, you know, I think the most important piece is when you're going to reach out to a coach, you know, make sure that if you don't get a response, maybe you send a follow-up. Because sometimes, and I can tell you, and I know all 4 of us up here, our email boxes are just jam-packed full of kids just sending stuff. And sometimes they come from a recruiting service. I got an email today from a kid from Washington. I'm not recruiting a kid from the state of Washington. He's not going to come to Mustang. He's not a Mustang kid. But again, you know, a Springboro kid sends me something, and that's something that I want to follow up on. I'll probably reach out with an email as we get closer to the spring. You know, if your son's going to be a junior, say, hey, I'm going to stop in at this game or something like that. I mean, I've done a lot of talking. So
I love it. No, you know, to go off that, my big thing, when you have to be a little proactive in your search, but like he said, there are recruiting softwares, and we'll get to that. You know, it's down Coach Peeler's list, which is great. You know, one thing is when you send it out to us, and it's got a link at the bottom, and it says NCSA, and you are from the state of Washington, it's like I know personally right then and there, you sent that out to 100 coaches. So now I'm fighting 1 of 100. And, you know, location is part of, you know, like we said, part of our process. You know, but like a Springboro guy, yeah, you guys email us, like, yeah, like you said, it's Springboro, we know you guys. And that for me, and I guess my biggest pet peeve is when somebody spells coach's names wrong. It's like, you know, or if we emailed you and then you give it back to us and it's wrong, I'm like, wait a second, that doesn't show well. You know, we have feelings too, even though we're coaches. But we do, like, you know, we can tell if it's, you know, when you, to go back to the early recruiting stage of it, it is, like he said, it is a problem. I mean, I know in the men's game, and I know it's happened in the women's game too, but in the men's game, yeah, a lot of kids think that you're not going to get recruited if you're not, like, ready to go for this summer. And you're not getting college coaches talking to you when you're a junior or that sophomore summer. We'll find you. You guys do not have to worry. You have to stick to what you're doing and continue your process and continue your game more so than worry about recruiting. It is tough when some of your friends or guys in the area are getting recruited and signing up too, but even at that, some of those kids don't pan out. We like to see you guys, you know, we want to see you guys develop as players. When you ID somebody, then we'll know in the, you know, we like something you saw, and then the next time in the spring, we'll go up to your high school game and make sure that maybe that unfortunately, recruiting process, like you go out to the summer, I might see you for 3 reps. I'm like, you're really fast. You have skills. And that might be your only shot, you know, that puts you on the radar. So then again, for us, we got to go back to those guys and ID juniors and kind of start talking. This spring, we'll be reaching out to 2018. We'll be reaching out to juniors, see where they're going in the summer, start building and forming relationships with everybody. So all is out lost. You don't have to worry about the early recruiting. I mean, like he said, when you're early recruiting, like if I was after my sophomore year, I'm pretty sure I was 5'2". I'm not much bigger now, but I hit my growth spurt right after that summer, which was nice. But like even that, I didn't develop as a player really all that much. So we do have to keep tackling and keep tracking and do our homework.
I think we'll do that. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
Is that thumbs up?
Coach Albers stole a little bit of my thunder here. It was next on the list. That's good. And you kind of touched on it, but one thing that I had is, you know, how you find the athletes and how do you quickly determine that they're worth your time. That maybe not so much they're not because they spelled your name wrong or something like that, but how do you real quick, you see them in 3 reps, I mean, what are the things you're looking for? Let's hear from the ladies up here too.
I think each coach has something that they're going to identify with and that they want. So for me and my program, when I go to these giant tournaments or a high school game, my first thing is speed. I want to see how fast you are. I want to see how hard you push yourself, if you're sprinting through a ground ball, if you're walking in transition. I want to get a fast team. And so that's the first thing that I look for. I also look for attitude. Are you being positive to your teammates? Are you helping your teammates? Are you encouraging? Are you getting pumped after goals? Are you communicating and listening to your coach? And just then I look for basics and fundamentals of the game. Can you really get low and pick up a ground ball with 2 hands? It sounds simple, but high school girls is kind of just almost there. And so I look for, are you passing and catching? Are you being a trail pass? Are you being an outlet? And then if you can do those 3 things, if you're fast, if you have a good stick, and you have a great attitude, you're one of the top kids on my list. Because I know that I can coach you up and I can build you into a talented player. But these 3 coaches, they probably look for 3 different things as well. So it's just depending on the institution, where our program is, and I think as a coach, the type of program that you want to build.
I kind of agree there, Stacey. I kind of look for not only stick skills and talent-wise, I go kind of beyond that, looking, I mean, you know, you just turn the ball over, I kind of look to see, you know, are you pouting or walking, or what are you doing to get that ball back? So I kind of look for the hardworking athlete, the one who's going to give it their all, even if they've just made a mistake. So kind of going beyond talent-wise, it's nice to see a kid who works hard and is willing to ride to get the ball back.
Yeah, I'll agree with both of you. You know, anytime we're looking for a person, I almost try to grade you out on your mistake. If you turn over the ball, are you going to cool guy, which is just kind of turn around, throw your stick at a guy, whatever, or are you going to go hustle and chase a guy down? I think, you know, with all these tournaments, it gets tough on the players too. We're not, you know, we're not immune to it. I mean, I'll go sit at a field for 6 hours and you'll see some of the same teams 2-3 different times. I mean, that's a lot of games in a day. I understand that, especially in the summer. It's insane. But I think one of the pieces that kind of gets left behind in the process, especially when we're IDing kids, is, you know, there's always eyes on you. It doesn't matter, you know, when or where. You always have eyes on you, so you got to act kind of as if, you know. act as if, you know, the Ohio State coach is watching and you want to go to Ohio State or you want to go to Virginia or something like that. You know, one of those guys might be there. And it's happened time and time again. You know, before I took the job here, I was at Muhlenberg College. It was a small school out in Allentown, Pennsylvania, and we played in a league called the Centennial Conference. You guys all know the face-off guy from Denver, right? He was committed to a school in that conference. He was committed to Franklin Marshall to be a face-off guy. A small Division III school, middle of Pennsylvania, nowhere. The coaches at Denver saw him at one tournament, realized that he had crazy potential, and they made an offer to him, and you know that young man was lucky enough. That's not the only story that's out there. You know, anytime I watch a field, I watch a player, I want a guy who's going to be out there and he's going to give everything in the tank. If it's late in the day and you make mistakes, if it's a hustle mistake, I can live with a hustle mistake. I can't live with when I see a guy get lazy, and I think that's kind of the rub that's happening in the game right now because there are a lot of guys who want to be cool guys.
Like they all say, it's speed. Our lacrosse on women's and men's game, a lot of it's speed. Whether it's top end speed or quickness or whatever it is, that's the first thing I notice. Can you run? And and especially the way I guess the way we scheme wise for us, it'd be more of a running gun. So we like to shoot a whole lot in our program as much as we possibly can. Like I tell guys, try to make it rain. So a guy that can run up and down the field and almost play it like it's basketball, I value that. But like they say with attitude, we notice this as coaches, like you said, we can sit there and watch so many, throughout the course of a summer, you could watch 2,000 kids play. So you kind of know what to look for, but you also hear things. I honestly look for one thing to listen to vocally is names. I prefer to hear people use names, especially when you're on the same club team. Not like a showcase is a little different. You just met each other like an hour ago, I understand that. But for people on club teams, if you're like, hey you, or hey, give me the ball, instead of they're your friends and your teammates. If you can't get along with them in the club game that you practice with, or even your high school game, you're not going to walk into a more competitive situation in the NCAA lacrosse and be yelling at a 22-year-old senior captain all-conference guy like, hey you. You're not going to do that to them. They're probably 6'3", 200. They're definitely not going to say that to them. So we definitely like to I listen for stuff like that, and like she said, bad attitudes. And everybody's heard it. We don't got time for that. Ain't nobody got time for bad attitudes, just at all. It's just at any level. It's just not what coaches look for, and we can see it real quick. And when you get to the college game, if you make a mistake and put your head down, you can pretty much bank on it going the other way for a fast break because we have quick restarts. You see that in the summer ball too, like he said. A lot of kids swing the stick, and then all of a sudden it's a 6-on-5 the other way, and it's kind of it's a little deflating for us, and that can win or lose you games. And if you haven't broken that habit in the high school level, now that we know you coming into our program, we have to break a habit for you, and sometimes attitudes are a tough one to break.
Okay. Academics. Let's hit on that real quick. What are you looking for versus what's required, I guess, in terms of GPA, ACT scores, SAT scores, whatever?
Are you, for each college team? Each college has a different kind of standard, admission acceptance and scholarship. So I guess I'll talk a little bit about with the academics to us. Obviously, we want a very, very bright student. If your GPA, I know it's standardized testing and ACTs and SATs are hard. I wasn't a great test taker either, so those can be stressful. I get it. GPA for me means a lot. It's more of an effort thing. It means you go to class. It means you do your homework. So if you have a 3.0 and above, I like that. That shows effort to me. I've been in situations where I've had a kid at Wellington at a 28 ACT and he had a 2.2 GPA. Unfortunately, that young man didn't do well. Smartest kid on the team, but obviously you saw that coming in you, that he wasn't going to get into a college atmosphere, and actually he will study tables and everything we do. He wasn't actually going to put the work forward. So I like GPA. But then when you talk about academics, the real thing is for D3. That's your scholarship, guys. That's it. There's 12.6 scholarships in Division I lacrosse, spread out among 45 guys or guys. Whatever program you are. I just know the men's game is 12.6. There's not a lot to go around. Guys like Steele Stanley, if you guys are familiar with him, he wasn't even on a full ride. He's one of the best players in the world. Tom Schreiber wasn't on a full ride. A lot of guys you see in the ML are on full rides, and they're on academic scholarships. So for Division III, it's a great opportunity. Some people look at the price tags and like, oh my gosh, well, we offer big financial aid awards with a combination of your GPA and your test scores put together. Like we've moved to a matrix system to where our admissions counselors come on visit, they can tell you exactly what you would earn scholarship-wise. So if you're not taking care of your grades, not only do we think it's an effort thing, but like we're also honestly to the point where this might not be financially feasible for you and your family if you don't put in the effort to get a GPA matching with like a 21, 22, even 23 and above kind of test scores.
Alright, at Muskingum, I know just admissions-wise, we kind of rank 1 through 5, but, on average, I think all our ones get around 16, which is, I think it's around 26 to go to Muskingum, and then another 9 grand for housing, but that's more than half right there. So, I mean, academics is huge. Even if you did want to go to the D1 level, I mean, D1 coaches are going to be looking for the kids who do have the higher GPA just because they can kind of, with their merit, if you do have a certain GPA, it doesn't count against the athletic scholarship. So, I mean, even, I know we're D3, but I had one year experience at Division I, and, I mean, they're looking for kids with high GPAs just as much.
Yeah, I'll agree with both of them. I mean, anytime we're looking at a kid and walk in my office and he's got a 2.0 and he's barely scraping by, we know there's an issue there. And to be honest with you, every kid that I have, every family that comes in and sits in my office, you know, you're there to be a student. There's a reason it's student athlete, not athlete student. You know, there aren't a ton of kids coming out of the OAC who are going on to play for the machine. There aren't a ton of kids coming out of the NCAC. I mean, there aren't a ton of kids coming out of Division III that are going to go play pro. And even if you go play pro, there are a very minute group of people who get to do that for a living. So we're trying to put kids into a situation where you do well in school, you're going to get that reward once you get to college, and then you're going to get rewarded again by going to a great institution like CAP, like Muskie, you know, one of these places that can put you into a place where you can be successful for the rest of your life. I'm concerned when a kid comes in and says, well, you know, I just don't apply myself right now. Well, what that means to me is that when you have 9 a.m. class and mom's not, you know, smacking you and saying, hey, get up, you're not getting up and going. You know, you'd rather sit at home and play Xbox and look, guilty, number one, right here. All right, I'll be the first guy to tell you I was guilty of that when I got to school. You know, I want to sit in and play Xbox till 3 in the morning because I'm free, right? I think that's the biggest transition we have for our guys. We do a bunch of stuff with our young guys to try and get them into a system, see that structure. But you know, academically, we're always looking for kids who are bright because usually bright kid equals bright lacrosse player.
Well said. Well said.
All right, college lacrosse, really any college sport, there are several levels, D1, D2, D3, NAIA, club. So when these athletes start to look at colleges that they're interested in, you know, thinking about the school and the program together, how do they figure out what level they should really chase? You know, how realistic is it going to be for this athlete to go D2 versus D3? And we're going to start with Coach Wood.
Okay, well, I played Division III. I played at Buffalo State, and I was recruited to play soccer, not lacrosse, and I never picked up a stick until I got to college. So I went in playing soccer, and kind of like the position that we're all in now, there was a head coach who got hired, and she wanted to rebuild the program. So she picked a couple of us fast lacrosse players, and she taught us how to play. The reason why I picked Buffalo State was because I wanted to go Division III, and I knew that I wasn't going to get a lot of playing time at any other division, but I knew I could make an impact on Division III. And so I wanted to focus on my academics, but I also wanted to be a part of a team, and I wanted to meet new friends and have new experiences. And I mean, you just have freedom, and you have a life in Division III, and you can join clubs, and you can do another sport if you want to. But for me, it was just I wanted to have a life, and I didn't want to get paid to play. I didn't want to have that athletic scholarship and somebody kind of like hanging that over my head. And you play because you love the sport, and that's Division III, and that's across across the board with all Division III sports, and that's why I like it. I have 2 girls in my program now who had Division I commitments, San Diego State and Radford University. And they changed their mind last minute. They looked at CAP, and now the one was 2-time Offensive Player of the Year in the OAC, and the other one's a freshman, and she's going to do really, really well. They just didn't want that life. They didn't want that commitment. They wanted to be a part of clubs and organizations, and they really wanted to see a lot of playing time and make an impact, and they're going to leave their footprint in Capital for a very long time, and that's, hopefully that answered some of your questions.
Yes. So, yeah, go ahead.
What type of plans is associated with the Division III program?
I mean, I would agree with Nick when he said you're a student before you're an athlete. Your academics do come first, so if you have a night class, you're going to your night class and you miss our practice. But obviously we get all your class schedules before we sit down and we make a practice schedule, but your classes are your #1 responsibility. And nursing's kind of big at CAP. We have a lot of nursing kids, so their junior and senior year when they're doing clinical, we work with them a little bit. So you'll do a clinical on a Tuesday instead of doing it on a Saturday and missing a game. We're all about academics. We make you go to study halls. We check up on your grades. We check up on your teachers. And we have a non-traditional season, which we both just completed, so that's 16 practices. We're only allowed to deal with you those 16 practices in the fall semester. The rest is kind of strength and conditioning, captain's practices, but other than that, we go hard 16 times. We teach you the basic Capital way to play lacrosse, and then we do a play day, and now it's like, all right, what do we need to do? How are we going to get better by preseason? We give you a winter workout packet. You go home for a month. You come back in January. You have like 2 weeks to get used to your spring calendar and spring classes, and then we start preseason. We go 6 days a week, 2-hour practices. There's probably lifting on top of that. But it sounds like a lot of work, but my team loves it. And I loved it. And it sucked every day doing it as an athlete, and we would hate those 6 a.m. lifts. But you know what? Like, when you have those memories on the bus ride, and when you get that game-winning goal, it's all worth it. And you only have 4 more years to play lacrosse. So it's like, why not go Division III and just take the best experience you could possibly have?
I think experience is a good thing to say. Like, it is a good experience. It's not a job by any means. And that's where most, like, her young women have transferred over. We have one of our seniors transferred from Ohio State his freshman year. For that reason, you want to be ROTC as well as be an athlete, so we can take a Capital, so we can do both. We have guys that study abroad most of the fall, so you'll miss the fall ball, which, hey, it's 15 days, you'll make it up and work out, but it's a good experience for you. I played Division II at Wheeling Jesuit University, so as far as what level of play to get to, I will tell you right now, men's lacrosse Division II and Division III are very similar. A lot of kids tell me, oh, I want to go Division II. It's like, so yeah, he said money. They do offer athletic scholarships. I played at Wheeling Jesuit. My scholarship was $500, and then I bought books.
For real? It's $500.
Yeah, big time. I was a captain, a national assist leader, and I was still like, wait, what's happening right now? But I chose Division II and Division III because I was getting recruited by all of them. And honestly, at the end of the day, like when you can get an athletic scholarship in Division II, it might top it off a little bit, but Division III offers better academic scholarships. But as far as level you play, hey, listen, you all should want to be good enough to play at the Division I level. They're the best, top athletes, and that you all should strive to make sure that you could set yourself up to potentially play. And then you have the option. Do you want to go there on a scholarship? And do you want to practice 7, 8 hours a day or whatever it may be? And guys have great experience about what you want your college experience to be like. And I just know Division II and Division III level of play for us is very, very similar. I would be safe to say that the national champs Division III would most likely beat the national champs Division II. It's a battle now, but it's still very similar in the men's game. So as far as level of play, it honestly comes down to what you guys want in your experience. I would say location is where you would start. Every kid in the world is going to say, like I got recruited by Whittier College out in California. I was like, I'm going. And Dad's like, cool. And then Limestone, 2 national champ recruited me in South Carolina. I'm going. and then he circled the house. And he said, anything in this circle you're allowed to go to. And it narrowed my range from 75 schools to 4. And it was pretty easy for me to choose from that. But that was a big thing. And level play versus location was kind of where it's overwhelming when you get all these schools you've never heard of emailing you or calling you or sending you letters or inviting you to prospect days. I just kind of narrowed it down to where level I wanted to play and what area I wanted to play in. It's kind of for me.
Yeah, I agree with both of them. At the Division III level, and I played at Ohio Wesleyan, and I was a 2-time first-team all-conference guy there. I had an offer from the University of Delaware that I left on the table. And I don't know, and I'm the same way, Coach Marzano, like, University of Delaware calls, you go out there, it's like, oh, wow, that's where I want to be, man, all right. But for me, it was important. I think it was more important for me. I wouldn't have succeeded in a big place like that. I had a very frank conversation with my parents about that. And, I think, again, parents, this is where you guys can really put in your 2 cents. And I know you don't think your kids listen to you. They definitely do. And this is a big piece of it. I was lucky enough, I was fortunate enough to be offered a scholarship at the Division I level, and I turned it down to go to Division III. And the sole purpose is I knew what my experience was going to be at the Division III level. And, knowing that and having the ability to kind of get closer to home, Ohio Wesleyan's about 35, 40 minutes from my house. So, I was fortunate enough that my mom actually worked in Delaware County, and my dad came up and he was our defensive coordinator for a couple of years. So, family's a big piece for me. Now, my sister, she's the women's coach down at University of Tampa. She went to Washington College. It was about 8 hours east of here. In a tiny, tiny town, Chestertown, Maryland, that nobody's ever freaking heard of, right? It's kind of different strokes for different folks. She wanted to go out east. She wanted that experience out east, and she took it, and she made full advantage of it. So, I think the first thing a family should do, and I agree with Dom exactly right here, sit down and find out exactly what you want. What location do you want to be in? Where do you want to be? How do you want to get there? And then I think from there, you have to want to be a Division I player. You have to want to. Because if you don't, if you're shooting for the middle, you're never going to hit the top, right? We always talk about ceilings, glass ceilings and stuff like that. Always shoot for the top. And there's plenty of lacrosse now. Back in our day, we were playing up at the soccer fields, pickup. Now there's club ball and stuff like that. So you have the opportunity to get seen by a bunch of people. Take advantage of that opportunity. I know that gentleman asked about, what's it like in Division III. Division III it's about what you want to get out of the experience too. For us, we got 16 days, and then we hand it over to the captains and say, you guys got to do it. I know when I played and what I try to emulate my program right now is, you guys are responsible for our success. I can only be so responsible because I only have my hands on you for this amount of time, especially when we're out of season. You guys have to show me that you want to work hard and you want to be successful on the field, and that's how we get there. And I think anybody who's looking seriously to play at Division I, II, or III, you're putting yourself in a position to be successful, number one, but you have to understand that it's going to take a little bit extra too. We've had nursing students. I had a nursing guy who graduated from me last year. He missed a lot of time, but the amount of time that he made up after it with being in the weight room, coming down and getting extra help during the day. If we had a film session, if he had to do a clinical on a Thursday or on a Friday, and we had to play on a Saturday, he'd be in my office on Thursday or Wednesday, and we'd be going over the scout. It's at the Division III level, it's a lot about what the student athlete is willing to put into it, is what they're going to get out of it. At the Division I, it's more, hey, this is what you're going to do, this is how it's going to be. And for some people, that's perfect. There's guys that I know that played Division I places, never stepped on the field. They were practice guys for 4 years, had a great experience, loved the schools to death. Again, I think it's when you sit down and you identify it, that's kind of what you got to have.
I stayed pretty close to home. I'm from Buffalo. I went to a small Division I school, Niagara University. It's near Niagara Falls, New York. So it kind of all depends on what you want. Division I, just fall ball. Division III level, there's a reason I'm back, or I'm coaching at Division III level, but We get 16 days in Division I. I mean, you get there in August and you're practicing 2 days till the end of November, which is great if you wanna do it. I enjoyed my 4 years. I wouldn't trade anything for the world. At the time, Niagara wasn't the greatest D1 team. Buff State actually beat us at every fall tournament I think I've ever played against Buff State. So it just depends on what you want. I would say one thing, when you start doing this process, when you go visit schools, make pros and cons lists when you leave. It helps. Write it out. Visit a D1 school, visit a D2, D3, kind of get all aspects so you can kind of narrow down what you want to do. Because it's at the end of the day, it's where you're going to enjoy your time, where you're going to be proud that you went to that place.
Okay, and you guys touched on it a little bit. Obviously, you're not getting full rides, right? Nobody is. I get asked that question a lot by people. It just doesn't exist.
We get asked that a lot too.
Yeah,
What
sure
can you
you do.
really do for me? I'm like, nothing.
It's funny.
Really can't do it.
Yeah.
I wish. Like we've tried everything as coaches, like admissions, financially, like I've thrown out Priceline.com to them, and I've done several things and they've all said no. So you get your money with academics.
Yep, every time.
So what kind of percentages, academic-wise, what's possible at the
So-
D3 level? I know you mentioned about 50%. What are we?
That's for like you're I guess a 1 or 2 at what Muskingum ranks you, but I mean as long as you have a good GPA and even if your SAT scores aren't, I wasn't a great test taker either, so it kind of just depends on where you're at, but the better student's you're gonna get more money. We range between 16 to 12 to 16 we give out.
Yeah, somewhere around there. I think the other thing too is like at a place like Muskingum, like we have the John Glenn Scholarship, and it's like 4 kids in every freshman class, and that's everything paid for. But that's, you got to be crazy high academic for that. I know in some other places, some other places that I'm pretty familiar with, if you're not getting it done in the classroom, it doesn't matter. It could be 0%. If you want to get a piece of the pie, you have to walk out with at a minimum a 3.0 and at a minimum with a 22, 23 on your ACT. And then if you're looking east, you got to take the SAT. You got to make sure that you're up to snuff with some of those other schools, because once you go east of the Appalachians, you're talking about a lot of kids who are paying probably what they pay to go to my school or their school to go to high school. So, when we say student athlete, we talk about academics, guys who are sitting here who are players, like that is the most important thing. That is number one. For getting you wherever you want to go, it's the academic piece, without a doubt.
So like when they were saying about scholarships, a couple numbers that we are allowed to say, it's like if you have about a 3.25 with us and a 22, 23 ACT score, you're looking at about academically $16,000 a year. And that, each year there's a different kind of thing, different matrix or setup, but it's typically around that. So that's a big chunk for 4 years, all because your cumulative GPA. That's all 4 years combined.
16 out of what? 66 or?
For us, no, we are at 43, and we go all the way up. If you have there's scholarship competitions, we have the same one. If you're like a 3.5 and a 27, you get invited to the competition day. You're probably gonna get a half ride out of that. And then, like you said, because financial aid is a big piece of it. It's not doesn't just stop with academics. That's like you can walk out of our admissions meeting and know what you get academically, and that helps everybody. That makes it go. So like when you see a sticker price, please. It goes way down.
It's like buying a car.
Yeah, it's like, you talk down. Except this one, you can't really talk to them about it.
You can try.
You try. So then you have to file your FAFSA. You guys are familiar with it, your financial aid form with the government, and they're basically based on how much you make. And they give you a little EFC, estimated family contribution. They tell Capital or they tell Muskingum, this is how much this family can pay. And then you backload it with grants. And you might have some student loans in there and stuff too. But that's also something that they have departments for that. We have a department for that. So when you apply, don't look at sticker price, it goes way down. You just have to get into the process, apply, become accepted, and then you can really work with financial aid to see if it's going to meet what you can afford. So there is a process behind it. Don't look at anybody's sticker prices, because even though ours is more, what we offer our academic scholarships are pretty large. At Wilmington, where I was just at, the tuition's way down, but so are the academic scholarships. So, it's basically, it'll even itself out. A lot of people come in and they see the price and they turn around. As I would too, it makes sense, but it goes down. I believe like if you get accepted, because our admission standards are basically get you a scholarship if you can get accepted. So it's kind of just do the homework and go through the process and don't rule out anything until you really get that final number.
Yeah,
No, go for it.
you know, I think the other thing that gets kind of lost in translation too is that Coach Marzano said it once, I will reiterate it again. We have no control over your financial aid. None. I can call over there 1,000 times. I could go buy them dinner. It ain't gonna matter. You know, the best way to work with financial aid people is that you guys as a family work with financial aid people. We want to be completely aware of what you're doing, but at the Division III level, I can't walk in there and be like, hey, Jimmy's a great player and he's going to help us a lot and he needs a lot more money. They're going to look at me, they're going to say, really? They're going to close their door and I'm going to walk back to my office. I mean, that's just kind of how that goes. You know, and again, I think Coach Marzano's right. It's a lot like when you go car shopping and you're going to buy a brand new car. There's a sticker price and then there's the rest of it. You got to get, I think the biggest piece of education that parents and families are missing out on right now, and this is why this is such a great forum for you guys, because, you know, nobody tells you like, oh, well, you know, you get to walk in and then, you know, we kind of work our way from there. Everyone just kind of goes, well, I just sign up and then we'll figure it out, I guess, you know. It's nice to be able to know that, you know, there's a process and every school has a process, and I would say by now, most institutions have been through a whole gamut of craziness that some of us in this room can't even, you know, come close to identifying with. As long as you're up front and you're forward with those folks, they're going to do the best they can. And I think that's pretty much anywhere you go. Not just Capital, not just Muskingum, but basically anywhere you go in the country, because people want good students and they want good student athletes. They want to be good.
So you can get more than $500.
That's, yeah.
Good. Okay, as a high school athlete prepares for this whole recruiting process, what do they need? Highlight film, resume, you know, that kind of thing. I'm jumping around a little bit too, Don. But what do they need? You know, what can they send you that helps their chances of getting a look?
I mean, the first thing I want to see is film. So highlight tapes do really, really help me. A resume is nice just to see how long you've been playing lacrosse, where your honors and awards throughout high school and club. So resumes are nice, and it does help me like print it out and get your folder ready and, you know, link it to Front Rush, which we use, and so I have everything on my recruit. Highlight tape though can also hurt you though, too, so I want to see you play in person. If I do think that you're a great fit for CAF and you have those three things that I'm looking for, then I'm going to come to your tournament. And so I want to establish a relationship with you. We'll text, we'll chat, we'll email. You'll send me your tournament game schedule, or you'll come to one of our clinics or something, and I want to see you play. We had hosted a clinic yesterday at CAF, and you know, this girl that I'm recruiting who's a senior, and she sent me her highlight film, and I was like, oh, she doesn't even use her left hand. She picks up a ground ball with one hand. And I was like, I don't think she's really going to play here. And so I kind of backed off. She came to my clinic yesterday, and we were just doing 77, and I was like, what did you do over the summer? And she was just a completely different player than her highlight film. And I talked to her after, and, you know, it's just kind of like we got to get out there, and you just got to make sure that you always keep us up to date with your, you know, game schedule, tournament schedule, time changes, and everything, so we can really see you play in person and establish that relationship from there.
To go with like highlight films, I guess we'll have FBs with them because they are good and bad. Hey guys, you missing a shot is not a highlight. A goalie making a save, not a highlight. Okay, like here's my form. Or you guys slow-moing yourself in the backyard, ripping top right. Yeah. I love it. How many takes did it, you know, how many times did you? So don't try to trick us. But yeah, we like to see, you know, the shooting, preferably the ones you make, and then if you're a midfielder, some transition, can you run? Like some good footage. If you're a defender, I don't need to, like, we're Ohio guys. We watch football every Sunday. We've done that our whole lives. But it's for real. 2-minute non-releasable penalties. I don't need to see you guys clocking somebody because you can hit. Make it a clean hit because we like that. But if you learn how to hit clean, like that's what I look for in highlight film. To go with something else you should do, we all have recruiting databases. So if you go to our websites, and you go to their, it'll have like a recruit me kind of thing. And if you click on that, fill out all that information, and you hit submit, you've put the interest in us. I'm gonna follow up on that. It goes right to our emails, goes right to our database. We get it. I mean, that happens all the time. If you're on a lacrosse field, you get it right to your phone. If you guys see us in a recruiting tournament on our phone, there's chances are one of two things. Especially Coach Gallagher, we're even playing Candy Crush, or you guys will send us something from the database, and we check it out. And on the database, we get all the information we need. We can send that right to admissions. Then admissions will send out all the literature because you have a prospective student athlete list. So your first and foremost is I would pick out 10 schools that you have interest in, and you fill out their database. You fill that out, guys, that shows us, you've done half our work. We're like, oh, this person's interested. You won't just get some email, you'll get a phone call, you'll get a text, we'll call the coach, give me more info on this young man. And that's kind of where I see it with the highlight film, but then that's how you can jumpstart everything. And that doesn't matter, if you're a junior right now, start filling out those recruit databases, because we're going to start hitting up those, like he said, IDing you guys this fall. So I'd go to any database of ones you're interested in. Not just a random one, because then that coach is taking his time to a prospective kid that might not actually be interested in his school. And that's not really fair to them as well. So, and it's not fair to you, because guess what? You fill out that data form. Some of you guys may have recruited, you know this, we're going to continue to call. We're going to continue to call until we get a hold of you, because you show interest, we like you, and we're going to hound you. So if you don't want to be hounded, then don't put in the information for it.
I would say with your highlight tapes, when you write in the email, when you send it, just attach your high school schedule, or if you're playing in certain tournaments. That way, if we watch the highlight film, we already know where you're playing this next weekend or tomorrow. It really does help, and that's where we can come really watch a full game.
Yeah, I'll agree with everybody up here. I think that the other piece too, that I tell some people who maybe aren't involved in the club stuff, if you do a highlight tape, send me like a quarter of you just playing. Like just a quarter of you on the field. Coach Marzano said it best, like I got a highlight tape from a kid the other day, he got stuffed one-on-one, like 3 times. That's not a highlight to me that says don't recruit me. There's good and bad with it, right? But again, like you want to put yourself in the best light. That's fine. I also don't need to see you score from 5 and 5 15 times on the same shot over and over and over again. I want to see some of the things that you can do. If you're a midi, I want to see you play defense. I want to see you clear the ball. If you're an attacker, I want to see you ride. I want to see you go out and try to be an athlete. If you're a defenseman, I want to see you, if you take the ball down and take a shot, and it's a really good shot, and maybe that one doesn't go in, I'm not going to charge you. Like, that's not going to bother me. If I see a kid taking an opportunity, like Coach Marzano said, we want to push the pace as well. So I want guys who can go, I want long poles who can go up and shoot. If you're a goalie, maybe don't show one of you giving up a goal. That's never going to help you. Again, we can all laugh in here about that, but those are all things that I think all of us have seen, and it's just it's mind-boggling sometimes. If you're trying to highlight your best attributes, why are you doing something that's not great? He also said the right thing too. We have a young man who's super serious about us that I saw one time, and this happens a lot. Guys get lost in the shuffle sometimes. I completely forgot about it. We've been talking to him. He filled out our questionnaire online. It's like, I really like this kid, and hopefully he's going to be a guy that we have for next, for next spring. But again, make sure that you're doing your due diligence, because it's really easy for me when you fill my stuff out to say, well, that's a fish in a bucket for me, because I know that they have at least a little bit of interest, and we can go through the process there. Make yourself viable to the places that you want to be, and they will show you the love back. Everybody likes, it's work smart, not harder, right? We're trying to work smart. We want to make sure that we're getting kids who are interested in us. Because again, the other thing that all of us have been through with administrators here is they want retention. And we want to retain kids. Really easy way to retain kids is get kids that want to be there. Makes it really simple.
Well, next on the list.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes, question.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Matt?
Parents, no offense, parents suck.
Right?
I love all parents.
We've all heard that parent coaching from the stands, and I know he gets emails and phone
calls, you know, we've always been, we don't talk to the coaches, we've never done that. Everything my kids have done, they've done on their own. What I'm concerned about is I don't wanna get in my kids' way. At what point in time is too much? You know, how much communication is too much from parents?
Yeah.
What are some of the things that parents can do to get in the way of their kids?
I'll tell you the first thing they can do is they can send an email to me. If I get it from Jimmy's mom, is Jimmy really interested, right? You know, I want your son to you know, I don't want to say put himself out on a limb, but I want him to be the guy who fills it out. When you guys come on a day visit, you know, I want him to respond a little bit. You know, and all of us have had this in our office where we sit down with the family and, you know, the young man or young lady that we're interested in gives you the mind and mom and dad tell you all about, you know, Jimmy and oh, he's such a great kid and all that stuff. That's fine. Your son is probably a great, wonderful kid. I want to know from him because he's going to spend 4 years with me. I'm not going to spend 4 years with you guys. So I think hurdle number one is, you know, maybe not force them, but put them in a situation where they're doing the work because it's paying off for them in the long run, regardless of what's going on. I think number two, you know, if you have questions, and again, this can be completely different for everybody up here, but if you're a parent of a student athlete that I'm looking at, and you have questions for me, you have all my contact information. You can pick up the phone and call me, you can email me, you can do whatever at any time. I may not get back to you right away because I do have a lot of pressing stuff, but I will get back to you as soon as I can. You know, I'm not trying to recruit just a player. I'm trying to recruit a family because that's what we're trying to build in our program as a family. And all of us are relatively, you know, new programs, so we're all trying to build that kind of, you know, really family-centered deal so we can, you know, grow up and beat some of the big boys. You know, but again, it's a tough thing right now because a lot of parents are super involved in their kids' lives. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm not going to tell anybody how to parent. But I will say that it gets really frustrating on our end when I can't get a straight answer out of your son because he's got to go to mom and dad to tell him what, you know, which shoe goes on which foot. Does that make sense there?
I would say that, yeah, email that. But yeah, like you said, families, like we're gonna contact you, especially when you start getting that financial aid piece.
Mm-hmm.
Your prospective student athlete really is like, I want to go there. That's when you and we knock out all those details because at the end of the day, you guys are the ones, you know, most likely, I would say 95% of the time, put the bill, and really, it's your tax information and everything. That's when the parents really go, okay, I like that school as well. I like that program. My son wants to go there, perfect. Let's get to the details of it. Now, where parents might get in the way is, like you said, coaching from the sidelines. If some parents, like you work club teams, you coach club teams, if you are an aggressive parent on the sidelines, and you are yelling like, kill him, and stuff on the field, that's a problem. It's a 2-minute penalty. Not that I care about aggression, like I said, I don't care about that, I care about penalty. But that's where, like, you might have, and the club coaches, honestly, they'll tell you. Because a lot of these clubs now will work with you guys for several years, which is awesome to see. That, you know, I work with these guys at Sogo, I work with Resolute and stuff, I see the same guys come through. Well, they're also the same guys. It's their, you know, club teams or even high school coaches, it's their work. So if somebody goes, great family, never going to cause you any harm, then I hear chirping in the stands, like, you know, get a new coach, or do this, or do that. It's like I take offense to that a little. But I don't think you really get in the way that much, and honestly, I don't see it that much. And where I recruit, I guess I've been fortunate enough to have parents that are nuts on the sidelines, but that can hurt you if you are really aggressive on a sideline of a club tournament or a high school tournament, because then your coach really isn't looking out for your family or having the best recommendation for you as his family.
I'm going to piggyback, but I thought you did. Yeah. Okay, perfect. It's really, really tough for me when I go to a tournament and there's 25 fields and I'm trying to find my guys. It really makes it easy for me to eliminate a kid when I can hear his dad or his mom scream, "Hey, Johnny, Jimmy, you know, oh, the coach doesn't know what he's talking about." I hear everything when you walk by me. It's not tough. I just flip back and I go, "Oh, Jimmy, right there, boom, he's done." Because I don't want to deal with that kind of headache. You know, I want to deal with people who care. And that is caring. You're caring for your kids. I think a lot of people need to understand where they're at because that's what I'm trying to find. I think this summer there was something like 70,000 kids played summer ball on the men's side, right? And I probably over 1,000 tournaments. Okay, I have that many kids. That's what I start with, right? That's what we all start with, is that many kids. So I need to find ways to eliminate people. And the easiest way for me to eliminate them is Jimmy does something stupid, mom and dad do something stupid. I don't need you coming over, hovering over my book while I'm taking notes. That's going to be bad looks for you. But again, I think that's a little earlier in the process, like we were talking about. It's tough because parents are the good and the bad. You got to make sure that you're supportive of what's going on. You got to make sure you're doing the right thing by your kid, and you got to make sure that when you hand him off to me, I know that he's coming from a good background, even if it's a false background. I got to make sure that he's coming from an area where he's going to be, he's going to be accountable to somebody. And I think that's the most important piece when I talk to parents is Jimmy accountable? Is he going to be an accountable guy for us for 4 years?
All right. Can you talk a little bit about the recruiting services that are out there? Are the services worth it, where you have to actually pay to help get recruited?
You guys can start with that.
I would say as long as it's not gonna, break your bank. Just because we're kind of a newer program, so I do check some online, databases, so it doesn't hurt. But I also think, if coaches are gonna go to your high school games, or if you are playing, even club teams, I know they can get expensive. So there's a ton of tournaments where you can just kind of join as an open player. You don't have to be on the club team, but I think, yeah, NCSA, I check that on a daily basis just because where I'm at with my program, I only have 6 real lacrosse players on my team. The rest I've kind of just pulled off campus. So I use that. I'm not sure if you use it, but if it's not going to break your bank, I would say it can be great, but there's also, there could be some programs out there that you don't necessarily would need.
There's pitfalls to it. Where they do, that's where I get a ton of mass emails from, but I also know this too, the one that I use, you probably on it too, is field level. I probably get on field level every day. I don't think it's on the women's game yet, but it's great because it connects us with coaches, and if your coach is good about putting stuff up and making sure it's maintained, it makes it really, really easy for me. NCSA, there's a billion of them out there. I think if you're going to do it, make sure you find one that's going to do right by you and your family, that's going to make sure that they can kind of push you in the right direction to the places that you want to go. I'm trying to think, we sat down with the people from NCSA, and all of us sit with all of our other coaches and we talk. Recruiting is it's a blanket, and it's also, just one snowflake. There's so much, it ranges so many different things that can happen in it. So, the NCSA people, if you're not paying for their top stuff, they're probably not pushing you as hard as they can. If you're not paying for it at all, you're just kind of on there, but it's an easy place for you to put film and general information up, and you can reach out to the school and say, hey, I have an NCSA profile, and my film's on there. That makes it easy for me too, because if you don't fill out the front rush, I can add you on the front rush right there. There's a couple of these things, that's a tricky one for me. I use it, but do I like it? Yeah. Do I not like it? Yeah.
It's not something you have to pay for. You can very easily, pick 10 schools that you think you'd be interested in and fill out the front rush. You guys do front rush. Fill out the database that you're interested in. Every time I get one of those in my email, I get excited and I either, call, text, or send an email immediately, if not within a few hours. So you can kind of take all of this in your own hand. You don't have to do the NCSA. Just go on, pick up 10 schools and go on and fill out the questionnaire. That really goes a long way.
Yeah, as far as the yes or no version of should you pay for an online recruiting software? No, absolutely not. I don't think you need to pay for it when you have club teams. That's already a big expense. Yeah. Not only is it the fee, but the travel, the hotels. You're taking 3 mini vacations and instead spend them all across fields. And it's a lot of money, it's a lot of time, that it doesn't make sense. That's your recruiting software right there, but like we said, we all have databases and stuff. We will find you. I guarantee it, we will find you, 100%. And especially if you reach out to us, you're already found. So you're a recruit database, but it's easy. We use NCSA, field level, lacrosse recruits, .com. There's Lax Recruits, there's True Lacrosse Recruits. There's all these crazy websites. Captain U, which honestly, kids email me on Captain U. Guys, I'm confused by that website. I have no idea how to use it.
I don't know.
You know what I mean?
They
It's like,
call you too,
they
right?
call you too. I'm like, I don't know. I appreciate it because they give you all this information and they put it into Captain U for you, but I wouldn't pay for it because like, then if you email a kid back on it, it's at qmail.net. He never gets it because he has his own Gmail.
Yep.
And so like, that's where we just like to find correct information. I do know Springboro and these guys, you guys are fortunate enough to have people that look out for you. So I know we can go to your club directors here. I know we can go to your high school coaches and get a real deal. And then honestly, I was a high school coach. I started going to Bradley's high school program before Wilmington. And I did that for those guys. So our coach reached out to me. I made sure every coach in the area had everybody's information. So your high school coaches could be just as proactive as anybody else. So if they sit down, that should be your recruiting software, in my opinion. It's your coaches that are with you, that see you practice every day, that see your grades, that see you grow up from like a little fourth grade lacrosse player to a senior. Honestly, that's your recruiting software. And if any of your coaches have a problem with that, I don't think they do, but if they do, I mean, that's a problem. And you should just tell them that's not acceptable.
If you're looking outside the state, are those things worthwhile? Or like your players that came from different states, how did you identify them?
I ID'd my guys from different states at tournaments. Yeah.
Local, like just the
Well, I mean, like I said earlier, there's a billion things going on in summer, there's a billion things going on in the fall. I put my schedule together in February of where I'm gonna try and go that summer. And, our goalie from Virginia, I was literally at MVP camp, there's probably 65 teams there, I was sitting on the field. And that's kind of what happened, if your son or daughter is looking at a place out of state, and again, I kind of have first-hand experience because my sister went to school way far out of state. She just sent her stuff. I mean, Coach Marzano is 100% right. You don't need those things. Like, you don't have to have an NCSA profile to get recruited by a place like Roanoke or something like that. What you have to have is you got to have the internet and you got to have film. And I think that makes it pretty easy for them because just about everybody's traveling these days. And if they like you enough, they're going to find a way to come see you. Especially at some of those bigger schools out east, they'll find a way to get to you if you show that interest and you have all the correct stuff. And I think one of the correct things we were talking about earlier is make sure that all your stuff's filled out, make sure that your information's correct. Make sure you spell the coach's name right. I mean, it's the simple, it's the KISS situation, right? Keep it simple, stupid. Just make sure you have all your stuff packaged together and it looks clean. And any coach anywhere is going to say, again, they're going to be like, that's an easy one. Let's take a look, see where they're at, and we'll make the process go from there.
Okay, we got into this a little bit. Don, you started talking about it. My question was, what role should the high school coach or their club coach, what role should they play in helping them get to the right school?
I honestly, because we do recruit a lot of Ohio, I was an Ohio high school coach, like I said, I rely a lot on them. To be honest with you, a club, I coach it, it's cool to see them and stuff, but at the end of the day, you have to have the club model now where you almost have to see them for 2 summers to really get a good feel on who they are. And when you have a high school coach, the questions I ask them, and these are the things I value, and this is why I try to go to them as much as possible for people that know them, is how do they practice? For me, is gigantically important. As coaches, practice is everything. 100% is all that matters to me, is practicing hard. And there's only a couple people that know how hard you practice every day. Even when you don't do well on a test, or you are having, some social issue, or your guys are 15 to 18 years old, you guys are gonna have problems. How do they practice on those days? Only your high school coaches know that. They also know your grades, an honest grade. It's you can tell a club coach, I have a 4.0, and I have a 32. And it turns out it's a 2.2, and an 18. Only your high school coaches know this. So that's why we rely on them. I think that their role is crucial. And guess what that also does for that high school program? You have a good experience with a young man. I had a young man that played for me at Wilmington from Springboro. I had a great experience with him. So I know this is somewhere that they had me out for clinics and stuff. I'll always help out. Just because I had a great experience with that young man, to where the next kid in Springboro, you want that kid. So that also is a representation. And guess what? High school coaches are going to be honest. Even my good friends in high school coaching, we've seen kids we love There's one kid at a school like up north in Ohio that everybody loved, nobody recruited. Because this coach literally said he's lazy. He doesn't practice hard. And he wasn't wondering why he was getting looked. That coach had to tell him honestly, because then we're not going to listen to that coach the next time. He really does have somebody that might be getting overlooked and that he thinks can play at the next level. So I rely a lot on high school coaches just because they know you so well. They know how you practice. They know your ceiling. They know your family. They just know you. And they give me a better feel than anybody.
It's not gonna say that.
Yeah, well,
Great job.
Drop the mic.
Sorry.
That was worth $500.
Yeah, there you go.
So, if you want to play college lacrosse, should you be I get asked this a lot. Should you play summer travel club lacrosse? Should you attend showcases instead? Should you do both? What's the right answer? Is there a right answer?
I got this asked just yesterday at a clinic, and this girl was just like, my parents can't afford to play club, which I totally get it. She was like, how can I get noticed? How do I develop a relationship with you? And I was like, you come to these events. You come to the Capitol, the Otterbein, the Muskie, the Ohio State. You go to those little clinics and camps, and that's going to put your name out there, because we all go to those, and we all recruit at those. And so you don't have to pay as much money. You're paying $50 max sometimes to go to those little 5v5, 7v7 things. If you're a good high school player and you just played high school, I'm obviously going to go right to your coach too and ask them, how do you practice, how do you play, what are your grades, and develop a relationship that way. But I don't think playing travel club is necessary. It helps because you're more exposed to more college coaches, but if you're looking to play locally or in the Midwest, I mean, going to those college camps and clinics that we all offer, I mean, that's what they're there for, is to help you improve individually, and it's an experience for both, positive for us and for you as well.
Yeah, I would agree. I went to the 5v5 yesterday at Centerville, and some of those names, like some of those girls don't play club, and I was, a little shocked that they were able to play, and I was excited because it's names that I wouldn't normally get when I go to the President's Cup, which is this huge tournament down in Florida. So, I don't know the right answer. Club teams can be expensive, so sign up for those small 5v5s. I know Ohio State has one coming up this Saturday that I'm attending. Even clinics, it's a good way to get your name out there if you're not on a club team.
Yeah, I think that's, all that stuff is right. The small clinics are finally making a comeback, which is great. If you're interested in a place and have a prospect day, get to a prospect day. I don't necessarily think, travel lacrosse, especially out in the Midwest here, is a brand new thing. That's why everybody's jumping on the bus of it. You don't have to, you didn't get recruited from the travel team, did you? Yeah, me neither. Okay? We keep saying it over and over and over again. If you're interested in a place, be proactive. Reach out to them. If you can't afford film, I'm sure you guys film every game here. I'm sure you can call your coach and say, hey coach, can I get some game film? You can do it old school. That's what I did. I got 10 films, copied them onto VHS tapes, put them in a bag, send them to the places that I wanted to go.
Mm-hmm.
And hey, look, you're old enough to be live. but honestly, like if you can't even figure out how to edit it down, that's okay. Put something in the coach's hand. I love these small clinics and these small camp things. I think they're a little better. Some of this club stuff gets so watered down. It's so tough. Again, for us to go see, everybody. For the women, you guys are the President's Cup, and like the 3 other ones, there's a billion fields going, right? Like for us, we go to places like MVP out in Baltimore. There's 8, 10 fields going, and they're all, a quarter mile apart. It's really hard to find the guys that we want to find. So if you're interested in a school and they're hosting a prospect day or a clinic or a camp, go. It's not going to be, it's not going to break the bank for you, and it's going to put you in a situation where you can get a little bit of one-on-one time with the head coach and really see if that's a place that you want to be.
I think that, I guess I'll play an advocate for it because I coach club team. And I work for Sogo, also a club team. So I guess the real big benefit, if you look at it not as recruiting, to be honest with you, if you are just playing club ball to be recruited, you're not going to get the best. You're going to be like, how many shots can I take? How many times can I score? How can I be the alpha? How can I do it? Instead of just being a player. And what the real benefit that a lot of people don't realize, is everybody joins club teams, they want to get recruited. We're telling you right now, we can find you, and you got to be proactive. The benefit of it is, what's cool that we didn't, like, we got recruited, I got recruited at 205 camp. I went to one camp, I played with a bunch of kids from Maryland, and I looked foolish, because I never played them before. And I was at Hilliard, to where I was just playing against Hilliard kids, and I was one of the better athletes in my team. What's good about club is that you're bringing the best athletes from all these schools, and you guys are meeting each other. And you guys are, everybody knows right now lacrosse is growing, but it's a very small, him and I played against each other in high school, and now we're coaching against each other. It's that small of a world, but we all know each other, to where it's a really cool, and that's honestly the benefit of club, is that you will get better all summer playing against kids from the other communities that are just as good as you, and they're different style, and guess what? Then you see those kids in college, and it's a bond that you guys really do have. That's what I've noticed in my club team, that you have 2 or 3 years together. They look forward to that. So there is a benefit, and that would be, you will get better because you play against other kids that are not just on your team. And you guys will honestly make different friends outside of your high school. Like I did not like him in high school.
No.
I like him now. It's okay, we're all coaches now, so we're here to play the game. But like in high school, they beat us a few times, and he was an All-American, and I didn't like him. But it's a small world, and if we played on a club team, maybe I could have gotten better with him. But you guys have that opportunity, so that's the benefit of it.
I agree with Dom. There's the benefits are crazy good for the club thing. I know I kind of sound like a downer on it, but you get a couple opportunities again, like he said, that we didn't have when we were growing up. You get the opportunity to go to places that you wouldn't have been able to go and play before against kids who you wouldn't be able to play against before. And you also get the ability to play with guys that you wouldn't get to play with before. Getting to college and being able to play with some of those different guys, you're like, holy crap, I need to improve quickly because I want to be, I want to be better. There's guys now that you get to play with, and you're like, holy crap, that guy's looking somewhere, like, I want to be as good as him, if not better. So I'm going to play with him, and I'm going to do as much as I can with him or her, and put myself into a good situation where I can be successful. The club thing isn't broken, I don't think it's a bad thing. I think what Coach Marzano said is exactly right. It's giving you the ability to make yourself better. And anytime you're making yourself better, whether it's in life, lacrosse, anything, you're going to be in a good situation.
Okay, this is my last one, and we're going to open it up to you guys. We've touched on this a little bit, but what level of communication do you look for in an athlete? And then, in reverse, how often are the coaches allowed to communicate with the athlete? Are you limited? Do you have certain times where you can't communicate at all? How does that work?
At Division III, we're pretty open.
We're the Wild West.
Yeah, we can pretty much we can do almost everything. And then you get to the NAIA guys who can come up and kidnap you, put you in their trunk, and take you home.
They can do whatever they need.
They can literally do anything. But for us, we're not really limited on much. I think the nice part is, and the way that I recruit, I think is a little different than the way he recruits, the way she recruits, the way she recruits. The one thing that I like to do is I want to go at your pace. Now there's going to be a time where you're going to have to speed up and go at my pace, but I'm never going to put you in a situation. I don't want to make you make a decision that you don't have all the information to make. I think this kind of goes into a different thing where people talk about commitments and this and that. I'm a stout believer in kind of the scenario. You blow both your ACLs and everything in your knee day one on campus. Is that a place that you're going to stick out for the next 4 years? That's kind of my feeling about it. Is you want to go to a place that you're going to love. And I guess I was fortunate to go to a place that I really, really love, and that I continue to hate now. But I think that you need to make sure that if you have a question, you ask it. Don't get into a situation where, let's say, the coach hasn't gotten back or hasn't called you or texted you in a week or something like that. You have to understand you're one of however many they're looking at. If you have a question, or if you just want to say, hey, drop me a text, guys. I got an iPhone. It'll just fill up. I just write back, hey, how are things going? Are they good? That's cool. I was going to give you a call. If you call a coach and he doesn't get right back to you, remember, all of us have a second duty that we're doing at work as well. Both of us teach and we're both game managers. So on top of being the head lacrosse coach, I also have other students that I have to worry about, and I have to worry about, another team, you know, for the game management side. And then on top of that, we go through campus outreach. So we're not just sitting there waiting by the phone, waiting for you to get home so we can text you. I know it seems like that sometimes, but again, if you feel like there's a disconnect or if you feel like you're ready to make a decision, give us a call, shoot us a text, drop an email. You know, if you feel like that you're not getting the love that you want from somewhere, talk to the coach. It's really simple. It's a really simple game. I don't know if I have to say that.
Anything else?
For the communication of college coaches with an actual athlete, like he said, we want to, like, I guess where we do spend time calling you guys a lot. And if you guys aren't interested, like, let us know. Please, honestly, like, because like he said, we see 2,000 players play. We ID in like 700 of them probably. And we have to reach out. It's our job. It's our job to do it and make sure that our programs are being built. And out of that, you got to bring like 12 people. So the funnel gets really narrow. We just like to hear back from you guys. Or else you're going to keep getting calls from us on emails. And maybe even copy the same text 10 times. Because you guys have this little thing called a read receipt. And it's on. So I know you've read it. It's like, just turn that off. Like I said earlier, we have feelings. Turn it off. Or like text us back, hey, appreciate it, guy, appreciate it, coach. I'm not interested in capital. Hey, listen, that's fine. When you recruit 700 kids, you hear 600 plus no's. And that's okay, but we respect that. So like, you tell me that, I'm gonna go to the next guy you're interested in. They'll be like, you know this guy? I'll be like, yeah, awesome. He didn't get him on campus, but he got back to me and text me back, be professional about it. You should go nuts. And then if you can be like, yeah, I called him or I texted him, and you don't get anything back, that's fine. Even if you get a call, a voicemail, a text, you don't feel like giving that back, shoot them an email. Coach, thank you for your interest. I'm not interested in your university. I appreciate your time. And that's just a respect thing. You know, we are going out of our way, leaving you voicemails, little stuff like that. We would like to, just know if you're interested or not. And then we can just go on to the next. We can save you guys time and go to homecoming and football games and soccer games. And you're not going to be getting coaches calling you Friday nights. Because we work all the time. I remember recruiting every day, all day. Like, we're going to keep doing that. So if you guys just get back to us, we're good with it. We just respect the fact that you guys would actually give us that information. That helps us out a lot. Because then we hear no, we cross you off, you don't get harassed, we don't have to keep wasting time and the stress that goes with it trying to see if that kid is still interested.
Yeah, guys, I'll piggyback off of that real quick. Just the one thing is, like, I talk to him and he talks to me. Like, we have each other's cell phone numbers. We were texting on the way down here. So if we're recruiting the same guy, yeah, we're not going to share everything about it. But if he picks up the phone and calls me and says, yeah, Jimmy just texted me, said he wasn't interested anymore. Like, how's it going with you? Like, that to me says a lot more about Jimmy than you guys will ever know. It says, like, that's a young man who I want in my program. That's a guy who I want to be a piece of my puzzle. Like, fortunately for me, he doesn't want to be that guy. Maybe he wants to be a Muskegon guy. So just understand, like, again, like Coach Marzano was saying, this is a very small community that we're a part of. I know it seems like it's getting really big, but how many personal relationships do you have in our league?
With coaches?
Yeah.
All of us.
All.
We all hang out. It's a weird thing.
It's a little bit odd, but we all know each other really, really well. So make sure that whatever you do is above board. That's going to be one of the most important things, because we do all talk to each other. And there are a ton of stories out there where, hey, this kid, he was being a punk to me, and, he did this and this, and, maybe somebody doesn't stop recruiting him, but there's definitely a sway of opinion on him. I trust you. I feel like you trust me. We've had open conversations about kids. So again, make sure you're above board. Make sure that you guys are acting as if, act the way you, treat people the way you want to be treated. Golden rule there.
Yeah.
Some of those broadcast days, how often, when should you get to visit?
Whenever you want.
Yeah, seriously. So like, if you guys are underclassmen, if you're like a junior, every school has like visit days. Like we have one Wednesday, it's science visit day. And that's honestly, that's a great open house to go to. You get everything. You talk to a professor. It can be your first look at the college. You can meet the coach a little bit later, because that's the beginning, kind of figure it out before you like really get the coach's version and the coach walks you around. Like the fall or even the summer after your junior year, we'll try to get you guys on campus with us. So we can walk around with you, but if you already come, you set it up with us, we're like, yeah, admissions, come to this open house, we'll see you there. But it's a great thing to do early in the process, so then you can really start narrowing down. Also, too, all these local schools, it'd be a great thing to just even see a college, to be honest with you, and just see what a visit's about, and academically, and meet a professor, and just get your first go at it. So if you guys look anywhere, like even if it's not even just lacrosse, like you guys in Dayton, go to UD, just to see if they have an open visit day, just honestly to see what a visit would entail, so you have kind of a background. It's always tough for us to get it, it's awesome, but at the same time you have to do your homework. You don't want them to visit just your school. You want them to visit 4 more, so that they really make a great decision. But I think it's a great time to look at those open houses earlier. And then your senior year, that's when it's summer, that summer going in your senior, that's like, I'm ready to get recruited by your coach. You've already built a relationship, you watched me play, way too much all spring. I at least owe it to you, because you came to 17 games, Like, at least you're gonna go there in the fall, but I think it's a great thing right now to get the fall or spring visit dates as a junior.
Yeah, everybody's doing that. I mean, everybody is. We just had ours last week.
Yeah, on Friday we had a get hooked on education and a get hooked on nursing, and then on Saturday was an open house, so, I mean, every school has those.
Yeah. And personally for us, I met with I met with one guy from the 2018 class after one of those. I mean, they usually start early in the morning and they finish up about 1 or 2. Coaches usually around, especially now in the fall. We're done with our fall ball stuff, so I'm looking for stuff to do. I don't want to look at my boss. And I'm not like the biggest fan of just staring at my phone for hours and hours on end. So you come in person in the fall, that's just gonna make my day a lot better, right? I like talking to you guys, that's why I do what I do, so.
In the end, I mean, it's your decision, and you gotta be 100% comfortable and confident with it. And so I always just tell my recruits, I'm not gonna pressure you, I don't wanna peer pressure you, because it's not gonna work out for either of us. You have until May 1st of your senior year to pick a college. Sometimes even longer, rolling admissions, but May 1st. So enjoy your 4 years of high school. Like, do all that high school stuff, because it's gonna fly by. And then your junior year, visit as many campuses as possible. Go to big schools, go to small schools. One's in the city, one's in the country. And then take pros and cons from each college visit that you take. When you get on the campus and you see the stadium and the locker room and the dining hall and you can see yourself there, that's when you know. That's when you have your top 3 or top 4. You'll have that gut feeling when you leave campus like, whoa, I kind of want to go there. That could be a good one. And then that's your feelings. And you just kind of got to go with it and like go off those vibes. And then if you click with the team, you do an overnight. Meet the coach. Stay and spend 24 hours on that campus. We do group overnights where I'll have like 5 or 6 of my top kids come. They meet each other, they meet the team. Some really, really like it and they'll commit and they'll be roommates through their group overnight. But like, that's the only way to do it. Even if I have a recruit that's looking at Muskie, I'm gonna say, go there, do an overnight. You gotta compare us to something and it's gotta be 100% for you. So like, do as many overnights as you want at every school that's your top choice. And go from there. You'll know for sure in your gut come May 1st. I wouldn't stress about it now. High school is great. Look it up.
Any other questions? Players? Haven't heard from you guys. Got anything?
For the good, can you speak to the, look, we were still seeing a lot of first year, still seeing first year high school teams for girls, and varsity players have never played across. Can you speak to the expanding landscape of lacrosse league level? It's still growing, league level for girls.
Yeah, I mean, just alone in the Division II, how many schools have added over the past? I mean, it's still, every year there's new teams popping up, even at the college level. So it's growing. It's going fast too.
We just added Heidelberg for men's and women's, so now there's 8 schools in the OAC.
Do you see it stronger in any sort of region, or is it?
For women's, I mean, obviously the East Coast, they're always the powerhouse of
I
lacrosse.
mean, the growing aspect.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's definitely growing out west more. I mean, when I grew up in Buffalo, and like, I would never look at Ohio, just because Ohio didn't have high school lacrosse at that time. So I knew the college was probably not as developed as New York was with lacrosse. And now I think Ohio's becoming a little bit of a hotbed. We're having these tournaments pop up, and there's just the Midwest Cup over the summer, and then there's one in Indiana. So it's starting to grow eventually. But the thing with lacrosse, though, it's such an easy game to pick up. And if you're an athlete, and if you play soccer or basketball, any other sport, you're going to get lacrosse. And so, we'll recruit everywhere, and the West is growing, and the West has those athletes for sure.
I think that's on both sides of the ball, though. Well, like, when I went to school at OU, there was the NCAC, we had 5 members, and then there was Hendricks, there was Whittier, there was Trine, and there was Colorado College. And that was it. Well, WJ just started like my junior or senior year in college. So you're talking 9 schools west of the Appalachians that were playing Division III college lacrosse. We have 8 full conferences now. So, obviously, I think the largest step in the growth at the college level has been in the Midwest between Ohio, Illinois, Michigan. But it's exploded because there's, a couple different things, obviously, but, there's a ton of opportunities out here now for everybody sitting out here that just they've never been there. I couldn't have looked at a place like Muskingum. I couldn't have looked at a place like Capital if I wanted to play ball. I couldn't have looked at some of the other places. So it's the way that it's exploded out here is really, it's kind of like a buyer's market for you guys. Anything that you want to go to a big school, go to a big school. They probably have lacrosse now. You want to go to a small school, they probably have lacrosse. You want to go somewhere rural, somewhere populated. It's insane that it took this long for everything to explode like this, but now that it's blowing up, every year you're talking 3, 4, 5 different programs just starting up.
Any other questions? Hey, a player. All right.
Do you guys like recruit players who only play lacrosse or are multi-sport athletes?
I was waiting for that question. That's a good one. I like multi-sport athletes. Like she said, like Coach said, I started when I was a sophomore in high school when I started playing lacrosse. And so I only had 7 competitive years playing. I started late. It just turned out that all my sports that I played my whole life fed into this game. And that's why I like multi-sport athletes. It also doesn't burn you out, to be honest with you. Is it something I'm like, if you don't play another sport, I won't recruit you? That's not the case. Some people just don't have a passion for another sport, to be honest with you. But it is something, it's cool. Like, I am an Ohio guy. I even played soccer, so I like soccer guys because I know the distance of it, and I know the pace of the game is similar. But I also am a huge, Ohio guy. Like I said, I'm a big football guy. Like, I watch kids' football highlights because football coaches use huddle all the time. I can see their highlights. Like, if I can see running pads, big old pads, and then I can see run on a lacrosse field, I think that's a positive for me. But is it something I need? Not necessarily, because you might just not want to be playing another sport. But is it something that is a benefit? Yeah, I think it is. It just makes you more well-rounded. Every sport you play feeds into our game, and it makes you just a better lacrosse player. But when kids say I want to specialize in lacrosse, that makes me a little, not just because, coach, I just love this sport, and I just don't have a passion to really work at any other game except this one. Instead, a lot of kids get in there, I'm trying to be recruited, and they play 2 years of like varsity athletics, soccer, and then their senior year they decide to quit because they want to focus on lacrosse. I don't really agree with that. I think you should continue your sport, but I do like multi-sport athletes.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing. I like to recruit multi-sport guys too because I don't love watching lacrosse all the time. We've got a bunch of guys who play hockey, a bunch of guys who play football. I like to get out and see you play your other sport. I think that's important. I think, a couple of years ago they did a study on kids who just played football, and those football kids are more prone to injuries because they just play football. Their body just knows one kind of thing, right? Less injuries equals more play. I played everything. When I was in high school, I played hockey. I was a hockey lacrosse guy, right? I had never had a season-ending ACL, AC joint. None of the big stuff ever happened to me, and I fully credit that to playing multiple sports. There's coaches that'll tell you you're insane. They got to get seen. They got to get this. They got to get that. A lot of guys who just play one sport. They play one sport for 4 years, maybe 5 years. They show up in college and they're just cooked. And it melts your brain, man. And I think you've had that on your teams. I've had that on my teams. it's tough to see, but again, you know, playing two different sports, in my mind, almost, it helps you a lot, because I know that, you know, let's say you play basketball, and we're gonna change up and do something different in the zone, you know, that, the basketball guy immediately is gonna be like, okay, well, I know what the zone is, and this is kinda, you know, I know how to be there, so they already have that base knowledge when they come in. It's, you know, there's a couple different bolts to it, but I also think, you know, like Coach Marzano said, if you're playing just lacrosse, because that's what you have the passion for, I love it. I have no problem with it. I think when kids say, oh yeah, I'm specializing in lacrosse, it's like, easy buddy. Back down, it's gonna be all right. But yeah, that's kind of how I feel about the show.
I agree.
Any other questions? Great.
Scott, I used to have some graduate from college, and I really appreciate what everybody else has to say. I would challenge every kid, every parent, listen. They know what the heck you're talking about. We went through the process, broken everything down before high school. And I will tell you, take off the hat of pride, put on the hat of priority. That priority thing, all over the that experience. I mean, you really relish and cherish the experience, and you will make the right choice. And you have to prioritize a lot of things sometimes over the actual playing the sport. And you will play better if you get priority right. And I just really applaud these folks for, they're dead on. Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Greg.
Yeah, can we hand that back?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not funny anymore.
Oh, wait, what?
That's Coach Poe. He's our new JV coach. So we're happy to have him. So I think we're out of questions, right? Yeah? Okay, so thank you everybody for coming in. Hopefully this was informative for you. Hopefully you've learned a few things. But I also want you to know we're going to continue to do things like this. We've got some other things planned. They might not be like this exactly, but we want to really invest in the future of these players up here to try to help them get to the right place, wherever that may be, whether it's playing lacrosse or not. So pay attention. There'll be other opportunities out there. And I really want to thank you guys for traveling over here. I know you're recruiting constantly, but it's not always convenient to drive a couple hours to come over here for an evening. I think the information you shared was awesome. It was great. It was open, honest, and real. So thank you very much.
Thank you guys.